Hello and welcome to the Journal. I'm Steve Kendall. Property taxes are in the news locally and in Columbus. How do they actually work? Are there alternatives? And if so, what could those alternatives be? Joining us to explain that will be Gwinnett County Auditor Matthew Oestreich. Matt, welcome to the Journal. Thank you for agreeing to do this. First of all, talk about what the Auditor's Office does, because people probably have some misconceptions about what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for. So talk about what your group does, because there's a wide range of activities.
It's a wide range of activities for sure. The assessment piece is just one portion of the office. That's I think what makes the office one of the great ones, why I enjoy it so much. We serve as a fiscal officer for the county, so we'll process all kinds of accounts payable payments. We'll pay all the county's bills, about 25,000 checks annually processed to pay for anything from office supplies to police cruisers, for the sheriff. And then we'll process payroll for 1,200 employees as well. So as the fiscal agent for the county, we do those functions. Also, annual reporting, we'll take the county's cash figures and turn them into accrual accounting at the end of the year to prepare a report to show the financial state of the county. That's a function. Vendors' licenses, cigarette dealers' licenses, dog licenses, and also junkyard operating licenses. We sell all of those in the county.
Okay.
So we're the licensing agent for the state of Ohio to sell those. Then we also weights and measures, a job that I actually started with.
You'll see that sticker on the gas pump that says certified by,
Yes.
You guys have checked it.
We've checked it. Once a year we'll check all of the 1,300 gas pumps in Wood County and the other 600 plus commercial scales, anything from the small deli scale to vehicle scale that you'll weigh grain or aggregate on at a stone quarry. So all those get certified by my office as well. GIS, another function. We'll take that, we'll create maps and different layers on maps. Anything you see on my website to ones used by other county agencies as well. We'll fly low altitude, high resolution photography. Often to get an update of what's on the ground. And then all of that leads into the assessment piece of the office, where every 6 years the county auditor is charged with valuing every piece of property in the county. There's 75,000 different parcels in Wood County. Some residential, some agricultural, some commercial, some industrial, and then some public utility parcels. The state of Ohio will value the public utility ones, but everything else gets valued by the county.
Now, you mentioned the state. I know that we're probably jumping ahead a little bit. You collect all that information, you come up with numbers for each of those individual land usage things and individual parcels. The state has a role in that too. That you're not the sole arbiter of that. They weigh in on what you've done to some degree.
They definitely do. We'll submit all of our sales to the state of Ohio. They'll review our sales. They'll determine what are valid arm's length transactions, as will the county. There's a little back and forth sometimes on that to determine what arm's length transactions did occur. And then with that, that's the barometer. That's what the your reappraisal looks at to see if you hit the mark or not. And then there's parameters you have to hit. We've got to hit between 90 and 110% of recent sales to prove that we have accurate full market values.
So you don't just arbitrarily set the numbers, because some people think, well, the auditor, I mean, the numbers they came up with are just totally wrong, but you have to, you base those on it. And talk a little about the criteria, because there's a number of factors that go into determining what my property evaluation is. So kind of go step through that just a little bit more.
So we're looking at data to start with to know square footage of your home, bathroom count, number of fixtures, those all add value. Number of bedrooms, not really a huge determiner of value. Just the raw square footage is the main part. And then the quality of construction. And then the year built or effective year built. If it's an older home that's been remodeled, the effective year is actually closer to new. And the depreciation is less than what it might show if it has a different effective age.
And the number of buildings you have on your parcel too, because you may have accessory buildings or outbuildings. Those are all evaluated as well.
They are. As soon as they are greater than 150 square feet, we'll actually pick up that auxiliary building.
So people, because I know people look and say, well, I don't know where they're coming up with, why are there 4 buildings on there? Well, if you've got a small garage, or you've got an accessory building where you park your lawnmower or store your garden tools or something, if it's over that number of square feet, it's going to show up on there.
Yes, and then we'll pick up that value. All those ancillary buildings do add value to your parcel. If you go to sell that property, it might drive a buyer to pay a little bit more.
Yeah. And frontage on a road, is that impacted as well? Or is that just a misconception that that's a big factor?
Not really a factor. We look for uniformity. So the number of acres of your lot is going to be
more of a determinant.
More determinant.
Okay.
A lot of townships are going to have their own zoning that set a minimum frontage.
Okay.
So most of them are going to have at
Some
least
standard.
a minimum, some sort of standard.
Yeah, okay.
And the lots will look very similar.
Yeah. Now, well, of course, one of the things that happens is you go through that process, you send out the new tax bill. Then there's a process where I, as a homeowner or a property owner, can come to you and say, gee, I think you might be wrong about this. What's my appeals process, and what are the steps through that?
Well, and actually, before the tax bill gets there, we'll even let you know online ahead of then, so that hopefully you're not shocked when you get the tax bill.
Well, okay, hopefully not.
But when the values are sent to the state and approved, we'll have a window between the fall that every 3 years that we'll have those values posted online. We'll show your old value and your new value.
Okay.
If you disagree, you can appeal to my office. Up through the end of the year, and then after that, up through the end of March, you can actually file a formal appeal. That formal appeal will be heard by the county auditor, the county treasurer, and a county commissioner.
Okay, that's sort of like, I think in Lucas County it's like called the BOR, the Board of Revision.
You've got it,
okay,
yep, exactly.
So you have the same thing basically.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, we have less complaints here in Wood County just due to the less number of parcels. We've got less parcels in Lucas County.
Yeah.
So actually in Wood County, it's myself and the county treasurer and the commissioner on the board, where Lucas County has to run multiple boards.
To be able to deal with the volume, yeah. When you look at that evaluation process, and you talked about the timeline, when people purchase a house, they can see the property taxes online. They can see what the existing numbers are, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing to keep in mind there is if you're buying from somebody that might qualify for the homestead exemption,
okay.
And you don't qualify yourself,
then that's going to, the number's going to change.
that's going to roll off, and there'll be actually an increase. Then the homestead exemption will exempt a portion of the value for seniors or permanently disabled folks.
Okay. And there are criteria underneath that as well. Not everybody qualifies for homestead. There's qualifications. Talk a little bit about the CAUV with agricultural land, because ag land has gone up in value considerably over the last 10 years. Talk about how that works, and if I purchase land that has been in a CUV and I'm not going to use it for that purpose, what happens then?
Okay, CAUV, current agricultural use value, is what that acronym stands for.
Okay.
Essentially, that assesses anything that's in production agriculture at its production value rather than its market value.
And its development value or whatever.
Market or development even,
value.
because a farm might sell for $10,000, $12,000 as a farm, or if it's going to be developed into a subdivision, now it's worth $40,000 or $50,000.
Okay.
And then if it's assessed and it's Hoytville clay, like 2/3 of our county is right now, it's assessed at
soil type.
soil type. It's assessed by the soil type. There's 3,500 different soil types in the state of Ohio. All of those are assessed based on their soil type by the Department of Taxation. We talked about them. So Hoytville clay in Wood County or in Henry County, wherever it's at, will have the same value. Statewide.
Statewide, okay.
And the more productive soil types, at least in Wood County, like a Millgrove, will be a higher value. Something like an Appanee is going to be quite a bit less than Hoytville clay.
Yeah.
But that'll be assessed at $3,500. So rather than maybe the 10 or 12,000 it's bringing, they're assessed at $3,500, because that is essentially the cost approach, not the cost approach, the income approach.
The income approach. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we come back. Let's talk about what happens if I purchase that ag land, one of the types you've talked about, and I decide I'm not going to farm it. We'll find an answer to that question. What happens at that process? Because somewhere that has to be recaptured. That value is picked up. Okay.
Yes.
Back in just a moment with Wood County Auditor Matthew Oestreich here on The Journal. Thank you for staying with us on The Journal. Our guest is Wood County Auditor Matthew Oestreich. We were talking about CAUV and what happens if I purchase what has been a tillable farm, maybe with a house on it, but tillable acres, and I decide that I'm not going to keep it in ag production. The CAUV has been in effect for the previous owner. What happens now? Because I'm not farming it now, it's not being taxed at its income value. It will be assessed in a different way.
More at the market value,
right.
and then those savings between the market value and the income producing value are what will be recouped.
Okay.
And we'll go back 3 years and bill that, and it'll be attached to your tax bill as an ag recoupment.
Yeah, and generally the purchaser, that will show up on the new owner, not the previous owner. Depending on, they may negotiate that.
That's something we talk to figure that out at closing time.
Okay.
Who wants to pay that recoupment?
Who's going to pay that recoupment?
The savings were actually realized by the former owner.
Right. So theoretically, they're the ones that should make up the. But
yes, but that can be contingent on the sale. All different. They can figure it out.
Yeah, because it could add up to a decent amount of money depending on the number of acres we're talking.
Yes,
so,
for sure. Yeah, and depending on where that's located, if it's near prime development, the market value is probably going to be higher
than if it's not. Distant from. It's interesting because I know people. That's another one of those things that confuses people, especially if you're not familiar with agricultural land and how it's assessed and that kind of thing. Shift gears just a little bit and talk about how millage works, because let's say that where you live, they put a 1 mill levy on the ballot. And the 1 mill levy can bring in a certain amount of money in one jurisdiction and a totally different amount in the other, because it's based on property evaluation in that whole jurisdiction. So talk about what a mill is and how that sort of works. And feel free to use an example. Name some names.
Examples, and we could do that. 1 mill is $1 per thousand of assessed value.
Okay.
And so we've got market value is 100% value. Assessed value in the state of Ohio is 35% of the market. So we take our $100,000 home is what everybody uses. So $100,000 home, the assessed value of that $100,000 home is $35,000.
Okay.
$1 per thousand.
Okay.
That mill costs $35 for that $100,000 home.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, one thousandth out of that $35,000.
Okay. And go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Then you talk different taxing districts. There's always uniform taxation across the whole district, so everybody in that district pays the same tax rate. So if you look at a Otsego school district, let's say, of around a $400 million value, 1 mill there is going to bring in $400,000.
Okay. All right.
A Bowling Green school district, almost $1 billion value. A 1 mill is going to bring in more like the $1 million.
$1 million. Okay. Yeah, because that confuses people too, because they'll look at it and say, well, why on the other side of the road, the township boundary, the county boundary, totally different millage costs and things like that. And the other thing too, when you look at mills, there's something called inside millage. So jurisdiction passes a levy. Well, let's back up just a second. So we pass a levy. It's for 1 mill equaling, let's say, $100,000, or $400,000, like you're talking about Otsego. Will that levy ever bring in more than that $400,000, even if during its length the evaluations go up in the taxing district?
The only way it'll bring in more than that, say $400,000, is if there's new construction.
Okay, all right. Okay.
When there's new construction added, that will actually generate more additional dollars. So,
okay.
But property that was assessed in the year prior and the year after, no. What that will do is lower the effective rate.
It'll spread it over more payers, basically.
Yes. So that's the difference between the full or the voted rate and the effective rate.
Okay. Because people will see evaluations say, oh my gosh, this jurisdiction, the township government will be making a huge amount more money now because their valuations in their district went up, and that's not necessarily the case.
That's not necessarily the case.
Depends on the newer construction will affect that, but nothing else.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
House Bill 920 that was put into effect in 1976 is what actually causes the difference in value. So once again, the Department of Taxation will take all of our values, look at what that levy was voted in, what it was generating then, allow for the new construction to generate more dollars.
Right.
But any appreciation in value recognized during a reappraisal, that will actually lower the effective rate.
Okay.
So values go up 10%, the effective rate's going to come down 10%.
Yeah, and people think the opposite. They think, the evaluation up 10%, the collection goes up 10%. Now let's talk about inside millage, because that's one of those terms like, what is that and why is it there? But let's talk about that.
The inside millage, the first 10 mills of assessment were set into effect back in the 1920s, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
But they never factor down. So they're always collecting 10 mills, they're always collecting the full rate. As values go up with appreciation, they will generate more money.
They will generate more money, okay.
And they're divided up between the county. In Wood County, it's 2.4 mills to the county.
Okay.
The school district has a share. Whatever school district you're in will have a share of that. And then either the township or the municipality you live in
will get that share.
Will have a little bit, and together they can collectively make up to 10 mills.
Yeah, and so that's the one place where valuations will raise more money for a jurisdiction.
That's one of the two places.
Okay, what's the other one?
The other place is the 20 mil floor for school districts.
Okay, good. That's my next question, thank you, yeah. Another very simple, easy to explain package, so go right ahead.
I mean, the inside millage we talk about, the value goes up, The effective rate stays the same. It generates more money. I mean, it's that equation.
Okay.
With the 20 mil floor, it's all operational levies for a school district.
Okay.
For operating funds. It does not include bond levies. It does not include permanent improvement levies. It does not include emergency levies. All these other ones are not counted towards that. But the Department of Taxation, once again, will add up the effective rate of mills.
Okay.
Values go up. That effective rate would ordinarily come down, like it does. House Bill 920 is supposed to do. It gets below 20 mills.
And now something happens.
The state will push that value back up to 20 mills. They'll adjust all those levies to get them back to this 20 mil floor. To keep the school district operating at a 20 mil floor. So in essence, those 20 mills operate just as inside millage.
Okay. Now, does it change depending on the property's usage? Is residential, does the rate change for them versus the rate for a commercial under the 20 mil floor discussion?
Yeah, there's actually 3 different classes of rates.
Okay.
We've got class 1, which is the agricultural and residential property owners are put together.
Okay.
They'll have one rate that they could be on the 20 mil floor there, but commercial industrial are assessed together. And then public utility is assessed always at the full rate.
Okay.
There's no reduction factors for public utilities.
Okay.
So school district might be on the floor for res ag, but not on commercial industrial.
Because there was an instance just in the November election where the 20 mil floor came into play, and I know there was a discussion. People were saying, look, if you vote no on the levy, you'll actually pay more than if you vote yes, and that, of course, seems a little counterintuitive to
yeah,
people.
the Anthony Wayne School District.
But it was actually true, and that's what happened. And then afterwards, people were saying, what do you mean? I voted no and it went up. And they said, well, we tried to explain that. But it is, I mean, that is sort of a tough thing to explain to people, that voting no means the rate will go up versus voting yes will make it lower, or not the rate less, but the amount less in a way. So yeah.
Very counterintuitive to think.
Yeah, and it's one of the things too when people look at how the state, and you being in government, understand too that people look at how the state manages its money and the systems it uses, and it's not like your household budget, because things are encumbered for certain purposes. So if you pass a road levy, you can't use that to work in the cemetery. You can't use that to pay general fund things. There are specific things. Unlike your home budget where you decide, well, I just won't buy as much of that and move the money over here. So the whole accounting system is a little different than people are used to. When we come back, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about some of the different types of levies that are available, because I know the state's looking at doing away with one, the replacement levy package, but we can talk about that and what that means to property owners as well.
Okay.
All right. Back in just a moment with Matthew Oestreich, the auditor from Wood County, here on The Journal. You're with us on The Journal. Our guest is Matthew Oestreich, the auditor from Wood County, Ohio. Talk a little bit about the different types of levies, because there are renewal levies, there are replacement levies, there are continuing levies, there are emergency levies. Kind of just give us the brief description of each of those.
So when an entity has their levy come up and it's not a continuing levy will be placed on the voters for a continuing length of time.
Now, is that different? Is that like a permanent levy?
That is a permanent levy.
Okay, so those are the same thing.
Those
are
the permanent levy. You'd have to have a referendum to actually decide to take that off.
Okay.
The other levies, a renewal levy will renew the levy at its current effective rate.
Okay.
Continue to collect it the same, no additional dollars to the entity. Taxpayers should see
minimal change, if any.
Minimal change, if any. Almost no change. We estimated it at 0 change.
Okay.
A replacement levy that is actually talked about not being allowed after this year. That's part of the budget bill potentially.
Right.
We'll take the effective rate back to the full voted. So we've got a 1 mil voted levy. Now it's collecting at 0.7. When the replacement comes on, it'll actually go back to the 1 mil.
Okay.
So like in that instance, a 0.3 of a 30% increase.
Yeah. And there's, as you said, in Columbus, there's some discussion in that budget bill to not allow entities to use the replacement levy element again.
Yes. There's some trying to create more transparency to the voter. I think the state has done that a little bit with $100,000 rather than talking cents per $100 evaluation. Somebody can correlate that a little easier.
Sure.
If they've got a $350,000 house, they know, well, that impact times 3.5 is what my impact's going to be.
Yeah. And also kicking around down there too is House Bill 335. So talk a little about that, because that'll have impact as well, depending on how it flows through
the big thing with 335 is it would eliminate the inside millage.
Okay.
That would directly affect Wood County. Right now, 2.4 mills go to Wood County. 5/100 of a mil they use to help fund the historical center out on Route 6 there on County Home Road. And then the other 2.35 provide about $11.5 million to the county commissioners every year.
For sort of general fund kind
General
of?
fund
General
dollars.
fund.
With the biggest recipient of those is probably the sheriff. It takes a lot to run a jail, takes a lot to put deputies on the road. And then the courts would be probably next as far as
and where money they would get from the inside.
And also the auditor's office uses some of that inside millage.
Well, you know, there's costs are what they are. Now, and I know we want to get to one other part of this too, but so what happens, what would make up that money if it goes away? How would you recoup that or find a way to replace it?
Talking to the bill sponsors, they would look for the counties to, if they needed a replacement, obviously the state would like you to do more with less if you can.
Yeah, do it more with less or do it locally, in other words.
And then they would have the county replace it with some sales tax. They would have the municipalities or the school districts replace it with income tax. And the townships are going to hold whole and let them keep their inside millage because they really have no means to generate.
We're not allowed to assess a sales tax or an income tax.
Yes.
And then if we take that even one step larger, and I know you were at that meeting that took place a few weeks ago, the discussion of the state saying, you know, we may just eliminate all property tax, period, just zero it out. Again, that money there has to be money to replace that because most entities, especially townships, as you said, that's their only means of raising money. But all the jurisdictions use property tax to some degree, some greater than others.
Some degree, yeah. So all the libraries will use it. We've got ambulance districts that use property tax. Yeah. To what extent? If property taxes were removed, in my rough calculations, it'll be about a 10% sales tax if that's the vehicle we would use to replace it.
Here in Wood County, that would be the case. So in addition to what's already the sales tax.
In addition to the 6.75.
So you'd be looking at 16.75% every time you purchase something.
To replace dollar for dollar.
Dollar for dollar, yeah. Because on the surface, if somebody, and there is a ballot initiative, people are gathering signatures to put it on the ballot that says, would you be in favor of eliminating the property tax? Well, not many people are going to say no to that because obviously they say, well, sure. Now, but the devil is in what happens after that, and there has to be some mechanism. Otherwise, most entities, things will kind of grind to a halt in a lot of ways. If that was the case, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, that would change a lot of what the auditor does because you wouldn't be dealing with property tax. You would still be, though, responsible for the county's financial situation, all of that, and have to manage that without that alternative. Yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
It would be a big change in my office. I mean, as far as every 6 years we do the full reappraisal, and then 3 years in between we do an update based on sales, and that assessment wouldn't have to happen if there was no property tax.
Yeah. And you know, I think it's interesting too when you talk about that. I know when rolling back when we were talking about appealing with property tax, people go out and look at properties online because the really good news is, especially with transparency, you guys have all that information up there. I can look at anybody's property tax in Lucas County if I want. May not be a good thing for some people, they don't like the idea, but the reality is you can then compare what you're paying and the summary of what your property is made up of, the number of bathrooms, et cetera, as you were talking about, and you can do comparisons and see when it comes time to possibly appeal your property tax assessment or evaluation, what you can do. So that's been a big advance for people.
A big advance. My website, you can actually choose your property and it'll do a sales comparison for you and find similar properties.
Really? Okay,
yeah,
wow.
So you could do that.
That's really handy because
it'll find similar properties and give you the values of those, and you can compare attributes and see how you stack up.
Yeah, and if people have questions about any of the things we've talked about, I mean, it's very simple to get in touch with your office.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a robust website that is accessed by a lot of different people, and then you can call the office anytime, 8:30 to 4:30. 419-354-9150.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Wood County Auditor Matthew Oestreich, thank you so much for coming and clearing up a lot of this because this is an area especially where people, a little knowledge could really be dangerous in a way because you think you know and it's like, oh, you're totally, the average person thinks they understand this. And it's a little convoluted, but that's why we have guys like you and your team there at the auditor's office to make sense of all of it. So we appreciate that very much. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Yep. You can check us out at WBGU.org, and of course you can watch us every week, Thursday night at 8 p.m. on The Journal. We'll see you again next time. Good night and good luck.